everyone, this is Annabel again from Cartway Cards, and today I'm going to be showing you how to do bump technique, which is a great technique for anything reptilian or warty or froggish or whatever you want to use it for. I've used it a couple of times in the past with two different Kalulu projects. One was Kalulu Claus and the other one was Kalulu has the best candy, so a Halloween and a Christmas stamp, so it doesn't matter what you use bumps for. Today though I'm going to be using it on Alistair the Alligator. This is him, he's from Dr. Digi's House of Stamps, and the first thing I did obviously was colour him all white, and then after that I coloured him once all over with correct light and shade, and this would be the stage I would get him to before adding any texture at all. So here he is at that stage. I've got a quick shot here of what colours I used to do this, to colour him all in. However, you can use this technique on anything that you've already coloured, so don't feel you're going to be limited to green or to alligators or anything like that. So for doing bump technique on Alistair, I'm going to use 3 pencils. One is normal white, the other one is my darkest green that I own, which is Pine Green 267, and then because I actually want something darker than that, I'm going to use a really dark blue, and it's Dark Indigo 157. So I'll be using my dark green on the lighter areas and I'll be using my dark blue on my shadow areas, so it actually will add to the light and shade that I've already got. I'll also be using a 101 white to apply some light bits to my bumps. So the next part of the technique is to draw circles from one side to the other, or out from the middle, or however suits you, over the entire body of the crocodile. As you can see just here, this is actually my second attempt at this because the sound didn't work on the last one, but that's life, isn't it? So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it on his flank, and I would suggest the easiest way to do it is either to start one side and start to draw circles, all slightly meeting, different sizes, a bit random, across, or take the opportunity right at the beginning to draw in some much bigger circles, because as you get going your chance to pop in bigger circles just stops and you realise you've only got room for little circles, and then fill in between those circles with more circles. It's very basic technique. It doesn't matter if your circles aren't perfectly round, it doesn't really matter where you place them, and I would keep going until I had covered the entire alligator. I would also, when I get to a very shadowed area such as here or here, swap to a darker colour, and because I don't have a darker green I'm going to actually use a darker blue, and then you can go over the ones that you did in dark green, doesn't matter, and in the darker areas you can just use this dark blue, and then it meets up with your green, and yes, it's a bit darker, it's a different shade, but because you've used it in your shaded areas it makes sense that these circles would be darker. So I would cover the whole of this area in circles and then come back and start shading in those circles. Okay, so the next stage is to treat every one of those circles as if it's a cone. So it has light falling on the left side, it has shadow on the right side, and all the bigger ones would show a definite cone shape. So for that I'm going to use a slalom technique using the coloured pencil that I used to do the circle. So I'm going to go in on the right hand side, this would be the top of the circle, the top of the cone, sorry, and then I come down in a slalom fashion to the edge of the circle. Here we go again, little circle at the top and then down in a slalom fashion to the bottom. And can you see how that's giving the illusion of making a pyramid, perhaps with just a slightly flattened top? And I would then do this using this dark green on all the larger circles in my light area, and then I would swap to my dark blue to do this to the circles in my darker area. It doesn't matter if you use dark green for some of these. It doesn't matter if you want to miss some. It's fine. I suggest you don't do it on any of the smaller ones. You perhaps might like to just add a little bit of shadow, so perhaps a little bit of here, dark green here, but on the smaller one perhaps just a little bit on the right hand side to make them just slightly not as flat. But as soon as it gets big enough to do your semicircle slalom off to one side, try and include that on the bump. I would do this then all over the alligator on every single circle that I can fit it onto. If I spot an area like here where there aren't circles and there should be, just quickly pop some in. Job done. Doesn't matter. You can it's up to you really. You don't need to do this on any circles at all if you don't want to, but it does give a really quick bumpy texture. Quick for me, quick for pencils is what I mean by quick. I know pencils aren't quick, but you know. So once I've done this on all the circles that I feel I can fit it on, I would do exactly the same side on the other side of these circles using white and a sharp tip. And as soon as the tip is no longer sharp enough to do this, you need to stop and have a good sharpen. So I'm going to slalom up, little circle on top, slalom up, little circle on top, across all the ones where I put a slalom on the right hand side now has a slalom on the left hand side. As you can see, I'm not particularly delicate about doing this. It's not the end of the world if it goes wrong. You can sometimes just put a bit of a white semicircle on the left hand side if you can't get in the full slalom. That's absolutely fine, as long as you're keeping with the light and dark as per your initial colouring. And I do that all over. You can also, in the smaller circles, just put some white on them so they now stand out from their background. It obviously works particularly well on a darker area. Or you could swap and do exactly the same kind of thing with your green and just colour in a few of these smaller circles slightly darker than the initial colour, and so you're getting a very much varied texture all over. There's nothing wrong if perhaps the slalom's not looking quite right, and going in with your white or your green and just doing a circle all the way around. It kind of blends it and makes it more obviously circular, and it also raises them out from the background, so it makes it look extra bumpy. At that point, when I'd finished doing as many bumps as I wanted, I would probably spend another 10-15 minutes on this area, keeping going with that, keeping going, adding shadow on the rights of those circles and light on the left hand side of the circles. I would then either go in with my white pencil and pop a blob of white, obviously it's very subtle when you do it with a pencil, on the tops of some of these cone shapes, or I would go in with my white gel pen, it's a Signo one, or I would go in with my white Posca pen, or even sometimes it can look quite cool putting some glitter glue on, or one of my favourites, and I'll show you how I've done this on Kalulu, is to add some glossy accents to the circles right at the end, and it then, when that dries, gives the texture of bumps on the card as well. And people that get cards really like it if the cards are not just a flat picture but have other things going on. So I'd highly recommend doing perhaps a bit of glossy accents. If you are like me, some of the glitter pens won't work on polychromos because the surface that you leave is no longer porous, it's oily. So don't go straight in with one of the glitter pens, because it might never dry. It will just stay on the surface of your card and eventually you have to wipe it off. Let me think if there's anything else I need to tell you before I leave. I don't think I have anything to tell you. I hope this has been informative. I hope you can tell that what I'm doing by making the little cone pyramids. I hope you get the idea that actually even just drawing the little circles all over the image and then colouring in a few lighter and darker also gives pretty nice texture that you can use for things if you don't want to do the whole cone pyramid bit. Okay, thanks for joining me today. Bye.